I hereby call the Brockton School Committee to order, it being Tuesday, March 19th, 2024, about 7 p.m. We are at the George M. Romm Little Theater here at Brockton High School, 470 Forest Ave, Brockton, Mass. 02301. I do need to read the following into the record. Dear visitors, welcome to the Brockton School Committee. This is the agenda that will be discussed this evening. Please note the hearing of visitors is included. If you have a statement or question, please give your name to the secretary, and Mrs. Campbell gave me the sign-in. Again, it is limited to 3 minutes. In addition to attending, the public can view the meeting tonight on Comcast Channel 8 and also the 1071 HD version, and also online via the following link, which is www.youtube.com/TheBrocktonChannels. At this time, I would ask that we please stand and salute the American flag. Pledge allegiance. This time, we will establish a quorum. I'll call the roll. Mrs. Sullivan? I know Mr. Gomes could not join us tonight. Ms. Oliver?
Here.
Oh, is Claudio on? Oh, he is. I'm sorry. Mr. Gomes, you're on link?
Yes.
Good evening. I'm sorry. I had wrong information. Then welcome. Vice Chair Rodriguez, please.
Thank
Here. Ms. Azak?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
I'm here as well. We established a quorum. This time, we'll go into the hearing of visitors. The first individual signed in is Christine Panter, please. Might be Painter. I'm sorry if I pronounce incorrectly. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Christine Painter. I grew up in South Boston, Massachusetts. I attended all Boston public schools. I was supposed to graduate in 1993. I dropped out, and that was the worst mistake of my life. My family moved to Brockton almost 20 years ago. My oldest son went to Brockton Public Schools until high school, where he went to Southeastern. I currently have a child that attends the Edison Day. Summer of 2022, I decided I wanted to get my GED. I called the Adult Learning Center and made an appointment for an assessment testing to see where I would be placed for the fall of 2022. I was placed in the high-set classes. Everyone was so nice and helpful. Joan was my high-set math teacher, and Dave was my science, social studies, and ELA teacher. I was determined to complete my classes. I loved how everyone worked together, whether you spoke fluent English or not. We were each other's support. We all had the same goal, and we worked as a team. I also received tutoring on Thursday nights at the ALC for math. And on top of that, I also did tutoring online from Brockton High School for math. All the staff, from the teachers right down to the office, were very helpful and always willing to give me a hand. Everyone encouraged me to start my testing right after Christmas break. Everyone believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I did just that, and I got my GED in 9 short months. As a parent of a high school student, I feel this building where ALC is currently located is not an appropriate building for high school students. There is no gym, there's no cafeteria, there's no lockers. There's also no room outside for activities for these teenagers to run around, and the heating system is very old. This building is okay for us adults at the ALC, but it's not for thriving teenagers. The building is very convenient for people who don't drive and have kids who attend the preschool program downstairs, and their parents are upstairs learning new things. It's also very convenient for adults that don't drive because the Bat Center is right there. The ALC gave me hope and helped me carve my way to destiny. Today, I am a professional medical billing and coding specialist. I am asking as a taxpayer to invest and grow places like the ALC. Thank you, a concerned parent.
Thank you. Marjorie, I think it says Pion? I'm sorry. Pierre, I'm sorry. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Marjorie Pierre, a student at the ALC, Brockton Adult Learning Center. When I came here from AD to Massachusetts, particularly Brockton, I felt like I was lost because I left everything, my job. In my country, I was a pediatrician, and now it's a new life, a new language. Fortunately, one day, I passed Crescent Street and I saw the light flashing. ALC, Adult Learning Center, and I decided to make my registration in this school, a choice that I have never regretted. I believe in this school. At ALC, you don't only learn English or certified nursing assistant or citizenship class, but you learn how you can reach your goals and how the country works as well. This school even helps us with our little kids in the family learning program for children between 3 to 5 years old. My daughter was in this program. It's a helpful and a great program. I want to say thanks to the ALC members and teachers. Thanks to you members of the school committee. My English is improving, and I feel more confident about English for reaching my goal, which is getting my medical license here in the United States of America. Please don't move this school from Crescent Street, which is helpful to me, to my classmates, and even our kids. I'm pretty sure this school will do more and more for the population of Brockton. Thank you.
Dr. Mustafa, please. Doctor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Good evening.
Dr. Cobbs, and esteemed school committee members. I stand before you today as one of your constituents, a resident of Brockton for the last 17 years, a concerned taxpayer. I stand before you today as a parent whose children have and continue to go through the Brockton Public Schools. I stand before you today as the coordinator of the Adult Learning Center, and as such, it is my obligation to share some important facts with you. All I ask is that you consider the facts and make informed decisions. Fact number 1, capacity. The ALC is currently serving over 850 people. This number will continue to grow given the current influx of immigrants to Brockton. At any given day, we have about 20 new students register for English classes. We have even started afternoon classes to address this unprecedented need. Going to a smaller building will hinder our growth and will not allow us to serve as many students. Consider the fact that we have over 1,200 people on our waiting list. Fact number 2, grant funded. We receive $1.3 million through the state and federal government. When we entered into the agreement with ACLS, which is DESE for adults, we agreed to serve a specific number of students. If we do not meet this agreement, we will have to return the money back to the state. We have a legal obligation. Fact number 3, proximity to the BAT station. Many of our students walk to school. It literally takes students about 5 minutes to walk to school. If we were to move to the Goddard School, it will take our students about 21 minutes. If they were to take the bus or a bus to the Goddard School, they will need to add another 15 minutes to their journey. Imagine working all day and taking not one bus, but 2 buses to come to night classes, 6 to 9. Fact number 4, the ALC building suits the needs of adults learners and meets ADA regulations. Moving us to the Goddard schools will require you to fix the Goddard and get the ALC building ready for minors. As a taxpayer, a BPS parent, and an educator who's invested, as you are, I am concerned about the lead paint and lead paint remediation at the ALC as well.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Staney Innocent, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Tani Innocent. I am a student at the ELCL since last year. The school is very helpful and convenient to me. The ELCL offer a bunch of programs like kindergarten, nursing assistant, and more. Me and my family, we don't want the school to be moved. Thank you.
Keith Hayes, please. Keith Hayes.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Keith Hayes. I've been a resident in Brockton since 1978. A lot of you guys know me as DJ Sinister One. I do a lot of the field stuff around here. But one of the things that people don't know about me, that I've been involved in transportation for close to 35 years. I graduated from Southeastern Regional with diesel technology, got on the MBTA in 1988, and been there for 23 years. And then I now work at Logan Airport for Paul Revere Transportation. The reason why I'm up here is because when I first worked for the MBTA, I was taught to be proactive versus being reactive. And unfortunately, across the country, budgets and things that we face have now become a reactive situation, which is why the T is in such a mess that it's in today. There are things that I tried to be proactive in this community. Back in 2017, when Mr. Cobbs took over West Middle School, there was an issue with the students going to the bathrooms, like my stepdaughter, constantly going to the bathrooms. I found out that they were going to the bathroom constantly to keep their snap streaks going. And it was at that time, as a parent, I had asked to see if the IT could block that type of stuff. I don't think it was ever happened. Fight clubs were happening already at the Downey School and the East Middle School. We had a chance to be proactive at that. That didn't happen. I believe you were also made aware of that situation at the Downey School. In 2021 and 2022, you guys purchased buses for Brockton. For me, it was a great idea. I understood what you were doing and why you did it. But the problem is that you put the buses before the horse. And I can tell you, at that time, I had applied to become the lead for the transportation department here, but unfortunately, I don't know why, I was passed over. This is the third job in Brockton that I've been passed over on with having experience. And it cost this city because I was involved with the lawsuit of being passed over twice and almost bankrupt this city. I believe it was you, Mr. Cobbs, I spoke with when I was passed over the first time for this job. You hired someone, and then that first week of school in September was an absolute nightmare. Kids were left on the sidewalk, buses were late. I got a call 2 weeks later, hey, Keith, you want this job? Sorry, I already knew that the buses were being stored in the wrong place. And my thing is if you're deciding to keep those buses, I would be the person who I would love to help this city out. But there are things you need to know about, and I want to pass these out. There are a lot of costs. If you were to keep the buses, my best thing for you guys would be to become owner, but find someone to be that operator. That right there is a universal manifest of hazardous waste and oils. I don't know who you guys have doing the maintenance on these buses, but God forbid if you ever have an accident, they're going to come in and they're going to audit you. They're going to want work orders to make sure you're doing the 6,000 miles on every last one of these buses. Also, if you own the buses, you're going to be needing to turn these in. These are your spill reports. I was certified through Virginia Tech and through Federal Transportation Authority for spill prevention plans.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
And that's the other slide. Thank you.
Mr. George Brickhouse, please. George Brickhouse.
Mayor, if I may, just to correct the record, I never worked at the West Middle School.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start off, if you don't mind, with a small prayer for the community, because that's what we're here about. We're here about the community of Brockton. Part of what we do is based on the fact that we do believe. And if we believe in the fact that two of us are gathered, two or more of us are gathered, then God is here with us. And so I'd just like to say, Father, if you're looking down upon us and your ear is here with us, then please guide us and strengthen us to do what we need to do for our young people. They're not kids, they're young people, and we need to recognize them as such. I represent a program called CAT, Critical Analytical Thinking. And what prompted me to come today was that I read an article in the Boston Globe on the front page, and I read about Sue Sakowitz, who used to be the principal at Brockton High School. And what really pushed me was the fact that the Tuesday, prior to everything breaking loose, that Wednesday at 10 o'clock, I got a phone call, hey, yo man, take a look at Channel 10 because it's on. Mike Thomas and I were meeting that Tuesday at 2 o'clock to sign a contract to bring the CAT program, Critical Analytical Thinking, into the school. It's a pilot program. Mike and I were signing the contract. We were going to be shown the room the program would be in and the teacher who would be in the room with us because it was a pilot program and the union needed to be represented. I, after reading the article today, said I need to come out of my hibernation and reading the empty prize, because the empty prize was causing me to internalize the pain that is being reflected across Brockton on many different levels. As I said, it's not about our young people, it's about doing what is right for everybody who is part of the community. And I think that Mike Thomas had an idea of what might be coming down the pike. That's why he wanted to come into the school as principal and superintendent. So part of my being here today was, number one, to ask the question that if Dr. Cobbs is going to be given the opportunity to continue and be the permanent supervisor, or if not, can we bring Mike Thomas back to do what he started to do? As I said, he was going to be the principal and the superintendent in the schools because I think he recognized what was coming down the pike in Brockton. I appreciate your time and God bless.
That ends Agenda 2, hearing of visitors. We will now go on to Agenda 3, report of superintendent of schools. Dr. Jim Cobbs, please.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, school committee members. The next item on the agenda is the student representative report from Mr. Anthony Vega.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anthony Vega. I'll be doing the report. Thank you for your time. Of course, going on at Brockton High, there is a lot of things that are being addressed here at these meetings and other places, but I'm here to highlight all the successes that our students, staff, and community have brought together at this school. First off, I would like to highlight the Brockton High School Harmonics, which competed in the Central Massachusetts Show Choir Festival and took home a second-place finish in the small mixed division 2 years running. They were also the highest scoring Massachusetts group and earned the Shimmy and Swagger Award. Yeah, I know, right? Of course, the entire ensemble of the cast and crew did amazing jobs, but highlighting the individual awards, seniors Herbalin Trupnas and Arian Dubison won the Outstanding Performer Award for their spectacular performances. And on top of that, I believe it was March 13th, they absolutely killed it at their spring choral concert. Yeah, they did. They always do a great job, no surprise, but they always pull off a spectacular performance. Next up is highlighting the boys track athletics team. On February 13th, the track team won the Southeast Conference Championship. The 4x200, 4x400 relay team took first place, and the 4x800 took second. Notable athletes, Lucas Andrade, Antonio Tabone. And then in February 26th, they competed in the All-State Tournament, where we had Lucas Andrade, Nazir Blue Gomes, Antonio Tabone, and Wolf Victor place and get medals. Out of these notable athletes, I want to give a special congratulations to junior Lucas Andrade for his record-setting performance in the All-State Tournament. He won first place for all three of his 55-meter hurdle races. And not only did he set a Brockton High School record of 7.3 seconds, but he also, oh yeah, I wrote that right, 13th in the nation, which is incredible. And the nation's crazy. And also a shout out to juniors Nazir Blue Gomes and Antonio Tabon, who were placed in the top 10 performances in that competition for the hurdles and the 600 meter. Next up is the girls track. On February 15th, they competed in the MIAA Division I Track and Field Championship. We have notable athletes Isis Price, Catherine Moyes, Kara Williamson. And on February 24th, Isis went to the MIAA Meet of Champions for the long jump, as she had the 12th highest distance in the state. So congratulations to her and the rest of the team and coaching staff. There's a lot of sports here, I'm sorry. Girls basketball, the girls basketball team went 11-11 to finish off the season, making it into the round of 32 in the MIAA tournament. They won a thrilling game against North Andover by 1 point in the first round of the playoffs, and they lost a hard-fought match against Wachusett Regional. The team's all-stars, Sonali Carter, I'm probably not pronouncing that right, Tahia Madison, Nevaeh King, Ava Montero, and Jalissa Miles. They were the leaders of the team, and they led them to a playoff record and a playoff win. So congratulations to them and the coaches. And then just a quick praise towards the future nurses of our world coming from BHS. This year's student health clinicians have officially started their clinicals, and it's just a reminder of how much BHS has to offer to the world and everything else in the community. And then this previous weekend, the BHS Drama Club earned high ranks in the Massachusetts Educational Theater Guild competition with this year's piece, Charlie's Aunt, as they scored 14 All-Star awards during the preliminary rounds. The award individual outstanding acting awards, Nick Colby, Gigi Lamar, and AJ Rivas. Hannah Castillo, Molly Corvino, Jaden Delory, Daniel Hill, Abigail Krim, Haley Pike, James. I'm doing a lot. Outstanding set design and execution. I don't want to feel like I'm skipping over people, but these are a lot of names to read, and I'm glad. There was a bunch of awards. So we're proud to have such a talented cast and crew every performance, and then we wish them, as they prepare to host the semifinals in Brockton this Saturday, which means I wrote that PowerPoint a while ago, so that was previous Saturday. They performed amazingly in that too. They won? Even better. And then this past week, which is the right dates, our class officers and staff gave us a fun, exciting week of events. Monday was 90s themes, Tuesday was favorite character day, Wednesday was Pink Wednesday, Thursday, my favorite Adam Sandler day, and Friday was the teacher versus student swap. I saw a lot of participation in it. If I didn't wake up 5 minutes before school started, I probably would have done it, but I walked into school and I was like, gee, wow, that's a lot going on. But once I learned what was happening, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And it was my fault I didn't know about it. And then last Friday, our Oscar night, once again, the work of the class officers, Mr. McCaskill, Mr. Brophy, Ms. Tucker, and more. The class of the 2024 had their first Oscar night awards for their senior superlatives, which was honestly such a fun and exciting night, and everyone who took part hopes that this tradition continues. Everyone got to dress up. Miss Marion looking great as ever, handing out all the awards. A couple of committee members I know were there, which was even better, to announce the winners. And this was the first year that we did this, and I know that everyone who participated wants to see this continue in the future, because it's such a good idea that started. And then student feedback. It's that is a lot of text. That hurts my brain just looking at that. First off, I want to thank those parents and other members of the Brockton community who stood outside BHS a little while ago, showing their support for the students and staff. The majority of those who were there came because of the talks about installing the National Guard in BHS to control what I know is the small population of students that are the root of the issues happening. On behalf of not just myself, but all the other students at BHS, or the majority, especially our graduating class of 2024, we believe that taking such extreme measures would only further complicate what's been happening inside the school. Obviously, Brockton High has never been perfect in my 4 years here, but I've always considered myself lucky to have experienced what it was like to be a boxer. This year especially, those feelings have been slightly tarnished, and I feel like they'll forever be tainted because of what's happening with the current events. I'm positive I'm not the only student who feels that way. To start the process of rebuilding our school's reputation, I believe that the 10 to 15% of students that are causing this chaos have to be held accountable. Teachers and staff need to be backed up by the school district so that they can effectively create a safe and peaceful learning environment for the students that actually want to be there and use all of BHS's wonderful opportunities that they offer. I know this process will take time. It's not going to be an instant change, but we feel that it's crucial that this happens. And although the class of 2024 is on their way out, we need to ensure the success of the future of all the students to come.
Thank you, Anthony. It's a great report.
Thank you.
The next will be the Career Technical Education Report by Dr. Ferreira. Okay, Dr. Ferreira's not here. Okay, we'll go to the next agenda item, the Student Opportunity Act with Deputy Superintendent Mulder.
Good evening, everyone. It's always powerful to be in a space with a lot of people who care about education. And though we have issues that we all have to overcome and work together to figure it out so that we can continue the wonderful education that is happening in Brockton, it is just an honor to be in the space of people who care so much about their own education and that of the children of this community. With that being said, we're going to jump into the Student Opportunity Act for 2024. We have an April 1st submission, and so tonight is to go over with the school committee some of the information about the Student Opportunity Act to help you understand what we are preparing to submit to the Department of Education and what the expectations for our school district and our city is in terms of this act. So this is through the Department of Education. It is connected to Chapter 70 funding. And tonight our goal is to make sure that we understand what it is, to examine the submission requirements, to discuss the evidence-based practices that we will focus on in this submission, and to discuss the budget implications for not just next year, but for the next 3 years. So what does it include? It is state funding that's focused on the district's educating students with the greatest need. It addresses a subset of our district's overall objectives outlined in our strategic plan, which can be found on our website. It requires the district to set goals for rapidly improving disparities in achievement for students with our lowest performances. It is a 3-year plan based on, it is a 3-year plan of evidence-based programs and practices, and it requires from Brockton and other districts as well who receive the highest amount of Chapter 70 funding that we complete an addendum that outlines how we are going to spend the funding that is the increase from last year or from this year to the next year. So the summary of the plan, we have to write a summary. It'll be a synopsis of all of the information within the full body of the plan. That it has to have a data analysis, which we have done, of our student groups. That will be the focus. It has to have ambitious targets. It has engagement from stakeholders, family, caregivers, and other stakeholders. It is the 3 areas or 4 areas of focus that we have. It says 3, but we actually have 1 that's combined. Will outline evidence-based practices. And again, Brockton is required to complete the addendum. So the student groups, how do you determine the student groups? We determine it through data analysis of our own, from our own local assessments and information, as Dibbles being one example, STAR being another, and we also use state data. We have a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Education that we've had for several years since our district review, and continue to have as we address some of the issues where disparities exist. Also, are we to access data and our MCAS data. And the evidence for those disparities as they rise up, we have to figure out what do we need to do for our students. And so in looking at our data, we know that we need to focus some more attention, resources, and efforts for our students with disabilities, our English learners, and our students who are identified as being in the category of low income. And those evidence-based practices will target elementary and secondary schools over the next 3 years. And for the school committee, this information for what we have to do was sent to you in February in your packets. I will share this with you as well. And where you see links there, you can actually go into the Department of Education and pull up data. The link from the previous slide takes you directly to this, and this is what they call their heat map, and they identify for us, as they look at us and our accountability, they identify our student groups, they identify how our attendance is, enrollment, our students' suspension rates, our 9th grade students who are passing all courses versus those who are having to repeat courses, our pathways enrollments, which is our CTE programming, our dropout rate, and our 5-year graduation rate. And it also identifies how well our students do at meeting and exceeding on MCAS. So to go a little deeper, for our English learners, you'll see the bars in green represent the student group that is highlighted as one of our areas of focus, and that would be our English learners. The dark blue bars represent all students. And so as you look at the outcomes for our students who are English learners, you can see that the chronic absenteeism is actually less than the student group overall. You see the suspension rate is slightly less than the student group overall. But then you see the dropout rate is significantly higher. And so when we say, why do we select the groups that we select, this is the data that tells us that we're doing some things right and then something's going wrong. And so we have to develop programming that supports our students so that they are not leaving us before they graduate. And you can also see the number of students who are passing all of their ninth grade courses. Our English learners are identified as a group for focus there as well. And then when we look at our students with disabilities, you see kind of an opposite story in some areas. Our chronic absenteeism is actually higher. Our out-of-school suspension rates are higher. Our dropout rates, as you can see, were pretty even and then slightly higher. Our ninth grade passing rate, you see there's a slight difference there. Access to pathways, you see far fewer students with disabilities accessing those pathways. So we have work to do there. And for our students who are identified as being in the category of low income, again, you see chronic absenteeism as an area to address, our out-of-school suspensions an area to address. You can see in 2022, this category is relatively new because they didn't have the information for low income for students from years 2017 to 2021. I think they called it something else, and then they went back to the category of low income. And so you see some of the data there with our ninth grade passing rate. Again, you see that there is data only for 2022. And for accessing pathways, you see that of the students who take a pathway, our students who are identified in the low income category actually represent a larger percentage of those students in the pathways than all other students. So that's how we identify the three groups that we are going to target for this particular SOA. And when we say setting ambitious targets, if you recall, we came before you multiple times presenting and said our ultimate goal is to ensure that 90% of our students reach proficiency. And we said last year in 5 years, we said in 4 years this year. However, the State Department of Education has different ambitious targets that we need to meet, and that will be the targets that we will identify for you moving forward once we have them, and we will focus on those targets for our next 3 years. And engaging stakeholders. There are a lot of ways to engage stakeholders. Your voices in these meetings happen to be one of them. Oftentimes, because it's the hearing of visitors and no one can speak back to you, you think people aren't listening. We are. And we're hearing you say what you need, what your children need, what our community needs. We also had a survey. We've worked with the NAACP on the right to read and had an event and gathered data from community members there. We have school improvement councils. We have a number of different ways to get information. Our folks in our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Department have done a number of meetings with families and in a variety of engagements. And so in all of that, in our conversations with people, in our asking for information, we are gathering data to say, what do we need to do as a district? What do we need to focus on? And so the evidence-based programs that were selected so that we can rapidly improve outcomes for our students that were identified in those three groups. Remember, it is our English learners, our students with disabilities, and our low-income students. What we have identified is a comprehensive tiered system of support. That is one area that we have already started working on and will really focus our attention on for the next 3 years. Inclusive curriculum adoption for secondary, especially in English language arts and in science, and this is also in the current MOU. It is mandated that we have high-quality instructional materials and we can provide the instruction that goes with that so that our student outcomes will increase and be far better. We also have early comprehensive approach to early literacy, which is underway, has been, and when you look back at the previous SOA, that was an area of focus there as well, and we adopted the Wonders curriculum, and we have just finished our first year of implementation of that curriculum. And so that work will continue in terms of improving the instructional strategies in Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions for that, and an early literacy screening for our pre-K students. Clicking too fast, going back, just so that you can see very quickly how this ties to our strategic plan. Remember, this is supposed to not be something extra, it is supposed to be something lifted out of our plan. And so though our language from our strategic plan a couple of years ago, when we adopted that plan for the 5 years, the language is slightly different, but the focus is pretty much the same. A multi-tiered system of support for academics, behavioral, and social-emotional learning for our students is an area that we said we were going to target, and it is an area that we are targeting and have made some progress and continue to make great progress with, but it will be an area of focus for this plan. You also see that on our strategic plan, high-quality learning experiences with curriculum, K-12 was identified, and it is also identified as one of the levers that we've lifted in the Student Opportunity Act, both at the elementary level and at the secondary level. So this becomes the challenging part. Now, how do we get there? Because in our Student Opportunity Act, we have to be able to say how the additional Chapter 70 funding, and by additional, you'll see on the next slide what that means, in conjunction with the investments from other sources, enables us to transform how our district serves students who we have identified as needing the most support. All right, and there we go. It's a little small, but let me just make sure you understand what it says. It says the aid that we received in Chapter 70 for this school year was $241,067,581. It says that the aid that we are getting for the next year is $256,217. Let me start over. 256 million is more money than I've ever seen, so bear with me, okay? 256,217,656. And so it is an increase of $15 million. And that is the money that when they say, what are you going to do to have rapidly improving results for those student groups? It is us taking a look at how we are going to invest in our students. It's not, here's a check for extra money. It is built into the Chapter 70 funding. And what we have to be able to do is lift out of that funding that we get how we are going to program for our students with disabilities, our English learners, and our students who are identified as low income to improve the results that they are getting. That is a huge challenge for us. You have all been in these meetings about budget, and you understand that financially we are working through some things, and we will continue to work through things, but we will identify ways that we can improve conditions for the students that we have identified as needing the most support. And so what does that addendum look like? Because this is where, for Brockton and some other districts, it's a little bit different, and this is only one portion of it, but I wanted you to see all of it. It means that we then have to go back and figure out, for what we have identified, how we are going to invest and what it cost us as a district in order to invest in the way that we said that we would. And so TJ Plant, I don't know if he's on a call with us tonight or not, Trish Boyer, we all met today to figure out how do we fill out this addendum, and what do you notice? It's not just for next year, it's for the next 3 years. And so we have to have answers about how we are projecting our educational experiences for our students in Brockton, not just next year, but for the next 3 years. So it requires a lot of planning and a lot of work, and what feels like a little bit of time but we've been working on it and figuring it out for a while, and we'll continue to come back and share information. The school committee will have to vote on it before it goes to the Department of Education. And so next week, there will need to be a vote so that we can upload this information by April 1st to the Department of Education. And so just to timeline it backwards, our submission date is April 1st. A vote on March 26th is what we need. We will finish up this process of getting all of those documents and forms completed by the end of this week so that we can have it to the school committee for review. And tonight is the 19th, so that is this presentation. So that is where we are, and we have assistant superintendents for elementary, for secondary, and for unified services here as well, if you have questions.
Any questions at this time? Mrs. Sullivan?
Thank you. I was just wondering, on the Wonders program, have you seen the improvements that we wanted to see when we adopted that program?
So when you adopt curriculum, do you see improvements? It depends on what improvements you're looking at. I'll have Karen come over, but what we do see is improvements in instruction. We see that people have resources that they needed, and that people are using common resources, so that if a child moves from one school to another for any reason, it's not like they have to figure out, what are you using over here? We are seeing that students are getting more invested in the materials and as they're learning. Remember, we started Wonders by March of last year, so when we say a full year, it is not even a full year of starting with Unit 1 all the way through. We started over, and so there is a significant amount of learning that has to happen. There have been incredible trainings with ECRI trainings. The Hill for Literacy is working with us. So when you adopt a curriculum, to assume that instantly you're going to see a jump in results for students is not realistic. What is realistic is assuming that there's a learning curve for both adults and students. And so we are seeing that. And Karen, I think, is right behind me. She didn't dress like me on purpose, really. We promise. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Just to give you some real-time observation data, and again, I will give a shout out to the teachers and principals who have been lifting this work. But I was in a school last Monday and observed second grade classrooms who were focused on the essential question of how does the earth change? And then the next day, I was at another school and I watched second graders comparing to complex texts to have academic discourse around how the earth's changed. And then 2 days later, I was in a third elementary school in the district, and I watched them doing foundational work and word work on words that were related to the readings in those complex texts, which were related to the essential question that I had seen in the beginning of the week. So to see that across the district, and teachers have their own creativity and schools have their own identity and all of that, but to see access to grade level text and complex text, and then to go into a sub-separate classroom and see them accessing the same essential question and the same complex text in the way with all of the supports that they needed is pretty incredible and pretty powerful.
I guess we would call that progress.
Any other members have any questions at this time? Mr. Gomes is here in person now. Thank you for being here, Claudio. Any other questions at this time? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Wolder. I just actually want to go back to item B for the career technical education report. Just a couple things to read into the record for that. From Dr. Ferreira. It's a report on the fall general meeting of the Career Technical Education Advisory Board. We have the minutes in your booklets. Applications for members of the Culinary Arts Committee were David Casey, Scott Margolis, Letitia Silvera. Application for membership of the Health Assisting Advisory Committee was Leanne DeLuca Rushton, Maureen Battison, and Pearl Cunningham. And my recommendation is to accept the report and to accept those members on the committees. So the next item on the agenda is the first read of the BPS 2024-2025 district calendar, and you have it in your tab 3. Or is it tab 4? 4. So as you can see, the proposed first day of school is after Labor Day, which is Monday the 2nd, for teachers return on the 3rd, and students return on the 4th, and then, of course, the pre-K and kindergarten classes start on the 11th of September. The last day right now, as it stands without any weather or delays, is the 19th of June, sorry, the 18th of June. The 19th is a holiday. Any questions?
Ms. Azak, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to double check. So our first school committee meeting for the September, will it be Wednesday the 4th? We usually meet, I'm sorry, would it be Thursday the 5th? We usually meet the day after the first day of school.
Right.
So, Mrs. Campbell, is that when we're? Okay, just so, and then the other one is, I just double checked quickly, but I just want to make sure that we have election day put into the calendar. I believe it is the 3rd. I have to double check. Is it the 3rd? Election is the 5th? No, September. September. So usually, we don't have school and the teachers are usually there that day. So I just want to make sure so we don't have a repeat of March moving forward. To make sure that it's in it, professional development day for our teachers and that our students are not there. So I know we've always looked ahead, especially for September. November is a given, but September, I know that date is usually dictated by the elections department in Brockton. It's not always the same day every September. It usually fluctuates.
Right.
I look quickly on my phone. I think it is the 3rd, but if we can just clarify that before this is approved, just so we can make sure. I apologize. What was that, Dr. Cox?
The 3rd for September?
I think that's the September election is September, which is off. It's early, but
Ms. Azak, I'll get confirmation from Cindy Hogan Scrivani tomorrow, the elections commissioner.
just so we can make sure before we approve the calendar.
This is just the first reading of it for discussion, for questions.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No other questions at this time?
Okay, we're still waiting for TJ from Oakland Architects. I believe he's on a meeting right now, so he will join us later, so we'll go right to the next item.
Just point of information, he told the vice chair, myself, and Dr. Cobbs today, he had a conflict at 7, and he was going to try to get on. He didn't make a promise, but he said that he would text Dr. Cobbs if he's able to get on. And if not, he'll come to the next scheduled meeting.
Okay, so the next is for the 2025 budget planning for City CFO Troy Clarkson and Interim School Business Administrator Patricia Boyer.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Dr. Cobbs and school committee members. My presentation will be brief, and interim school business manager Trish Boyer is here as well. Really, we are in the early stages of planning for the fiscal year 2025 budget. We are aware of and working with those same figures that Deputy Wolder shared with you. So that figure of $314 million has a required contribution by the city in that net school spending number. So we're working together to determine that and fit that into the city's fiscal year 2025 budget. We've obviously been hard at work, working very closely as a team, Trish, TJ, our teams, and working with Dr. Cobbs and the mayor preparing for our discussions with the Commonwealth about how they might be helpful as we move forward and plan for fiscal year 25 as well. So our time has been taken in intense preparation for those meetings, and we look forward to continuing that dialogue with them. But right now, that's where our focus is in making sure we have together the resources that we need to meet those requirements. And with that, I can certainly defer to Trish. She's doing some work specifically with the departments and preparing those departmental budgets that will flow up to you, the school committee, for your vote in a fashion, as I've said to you many times now, that's more detailed than perhaps what you're used to, and then really speaks to the needs of each department. So I think that's an exciting and important development. But other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Trish?
Good evening, everybody. So I just want to reiterate what Mr. Clarkson has just mentioned, that we're working very hard to put together a comprehensive FY25 budget. We are going to give all of the budget leaders their opportunities to present their budgets in a very in-depth understanding for all of us. And so this is going to be a new thing for the schools and the cities to work together. And we're really excited about it. I'm looking forward to it.
Any questions for Ms. Boyer or Mr. Clarkson at this time? Mr. Gomes, please.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. So this past week we met, we had a retreat, and we were, looking into the budget for this fiscal year, previous fiscal year, and then moving into 2025, and the projections that we're making. And one of the things that TJ Plan had mentioned was the Schedule 19 that we do every year, which is the contribution from the school side. And he was not aware of the breakdown of that schedule. And I asked him, throughout the time he's been working with you guys to get the financial under control, if he was not able to obtain the form, and he said no. And I asked who would be able to provide that, and he said, going through the chain, the city CFO. So I was wondering if we're able to obtain the breakdown of the Schedule 19 for this year, the previous, and the one for FY25.
Yes, absolutely. So we have that, the work on that Schedule 19, in my tenure here in Brockton, has traditionally been prepared by the school administration, but just this afternoon, we were talking about working together. So for the benefit of the folks here in the room and those watching, the Schedule 19 is a spreadsheet that really looks at the numbers that you saw on the screen before, the state aid, our required contribution, but then also takes into account money that's spent by the city that is not part of that direct appropriation from the city council, but does directly benefit the department. For instance, the health insurance costs for school employees are carried in the city's budget, but they are part of the overall educational spending. So we have a breakdown that I'm happy to share with you.
Just to make sure, so that form is available for us.
Yeah, I think what TJ was probably talking about, in that spreadsheet, there's a calculation for administrative support that the city provides to the schools, which is common in these types of calculations. It's what you might call in a private company the back office support that helps support the school system. And there's a number in that calculation. We haven't been able to pinpoint that to specific support that's provided. Let me give you a very quick example. On the city side, we operate what we call enterprise funds. So those are separate entities that provide services to all of you for water, sewer, trash, and other services. Those entities provide a fee back to the city for that same type of administrative support. But what we've done over the years is, through a consultant, developed an actual formula that calculates what that number is. And so, for instance, those enterprises pay $5 million back to the city every year for that support. There's a similar number in the Schedule 19, but it doesn't have the same sort of formula behind it. So I believe what TJ was discussing was trying, all of us, the financial staff, but then in a larger sense, the school committee, coming to some consensus as to what that number should be and what the numbers are behind it. And that's, I think, so the spreadsheet itself has been in existence for a while, but it's really trying to understand those numbers behind the numbers that I think he was addressing where we have more work to do.
So apart from the formula, we can get the sheet with the breakdown of the.
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Please, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gomes. Any other questions at this time? Mr. Sullivan, please.
Yeah, Mr. Clarkson, I know we're we're being audited right now by a private auditor. Are they at the building every day working to do the audit?
I know that they are working daily. I don't believe that they're physically in the building because most of the information they require is transmitted electronically. But I know there's a lot of information being shared on a daily basis.
What I was wondering is, have they said anything? Have they reached a conclusion or anything?
Not as far as I know. They're still in the phase of gathering information, I think, and trying to develop.
Point of information, Mr. Sullivan, at the City Council Finance Committee meeting last night, I read the update that we got from Attorney Sarah Spartaford. Their projection ETA is mid-April. That's what they're saying. They've been working with Dr. Cobbs. They've been working with IT on the city side, IT on the school side. They were having conversations this week with Trish and with Irene, who's the acting auditor on the city side. So that was the information I shared last night to the City Council on behalf of Attorney Spartaford.
I was just wondering if anything popped up today. I was there last night, so I heard that. But was there anything today that, nothing?
Certainly not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members? Mr. Sullivan, please.
I just want to thank Mr. Clarkson and Ms. Boyer for all the work they're doing on this giant task. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Any other questions at this time? We'll move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is items to refer to subcommittee. Oh, I'm sorry. Doctor.
I'm sorry, I need to go back a little bit to the CTE
I'm sorry.
advisory committees.
Yep.
Again, I recommended that those be accepted, the minutes be accepted, and that we need to take a vote on it.
Take a vote on agenda item subsection B, Career Technical Education Report. Is there a motion on that?
Motion to accept the report, item B.
Motion was made. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion was made by Mr. Sullivan, was properly seconded by Vice Chair Rodriguez. Since everybody's here, we can do a hand vote. All in favor, kindly raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. It does pass.
Okay, so that concludes the report of Superintendent of Schools, Mayor.
Thank you, Dr. Cobbs. Are there any items at this time to refer to subcommittee?
Yes, we need to refer, we have a special subcommittee meeting scheduled for the September 26th for personnel changes recommendations.
Sorry, what date is it?
September 26th, Tuesday, September 26th.
March.
March 26th, I'm sorry.
March, I was going to say.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, sorry.
March 26th.
March
Is there a
26th.
time certain on that? Mr. Vice Chair, please.
6:30? You're not here.
I'm at a work conference, so I will
So
not
we
be
could
at
start that
meeting.
at 7.
7 p.m.
7
would
p.m.
be good, yeah.
Where, here?
Arnone School.
I know.
The next item to refer to subcommittee is a continuation discussion of the facilities subcommittee meeting that we started tonight. We can have it on the same evening on the 26th.
Right, I agree with that, so that's a sensitive matter.
What time is that, Mr. Vice Chair?
We're going to start at 7, so we're just
Yeah,
right
we'll
off-
just put on the
Okay.
agenda.
off of
Yep,
the
and that'll be at the Arno. Perfect.
at the Arnold, so.
Okay.
And that would be continuing to an executive session as well.
Yes, both will be in executive session.
Correct.
Okay. Mrs. Sullivan, please.
We also need to have to vote on the SOA plan, so we're gonna have to.
Right,
have a
thank you,
special
thank you.
meeting.
That'll be on the same meeting on the 26th.
But we'll have to have a special school committee meeting for that, to vote something in.
Well, we're having one on the 26th.
Okay, so that will cover it. Thank you.
So
You coordinate that and
SOA
start in
vote.
an open session and go into executive session with the other two matters.
Yeah, right, we can do that before executive session.
So we're going to have a special school committee member meeting next week.
Right.
Okay. Great. Any other matters to go to subcommittee at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. Agenda 4 is consent agenda. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What's the will of the committee? Do we want to take them collectively? Do we want to take them out? Mrs. Sullivan, please.
I'd like to remove D.
D. Okay. Any other members want to remove any? At this time, is there a motion relative to A, B, C, E, F, G collectively? Is there a motion on that?
Motion to accept A, B, C, E, F, G.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Sullivan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Sullivan. Before we take the vote, let me just read it. A is the approval of February 21, 2024 Finance Subcommittee meeting minutes. B is the approval of February 6, 2024 regular school committee meeting minutes. C is the approval of 2023-2024 home education request. E is request for authorization to accept proposal and expenditures of funds. Massachusetts Life Sciences Center, MLSC STEM equipment and PD grant in the amount of $140,000 even. Massachusetts Life Sciences Center, MLSC High School Apprenticeship Challenge in the amount of $47,500. And finally, Subaru Loves Learning Adopt a Classroom in the amount of $3,000. F is the request for authorization to submit proposal and expenditures of funds. Coordinated Family and Community Engagement Grant, which is CFCE, in the amount of $158,573. And finally, G is the acceptance of human resources notifications as follows: appointments, certified personnel, appointments, non-certified, personnel actions, leaves of absences, resignations, retirements. A, B, C, E, F, and G. There was a motion properly seconded. All in favor, kindly raise your hand. Opposed, raise your hand. Those passed. Mrs. Sullivan, D, please.
I just wanted to point out on D that this is an acceptance of a donation from the Brockton Educational Support Professional Association, BESPA, which the president is Stacy McDonald, and it is she applied and received a $4,000 grant, and with the grant, she was able to purchase over 55 diverse, inclusive titles for all the elementary schools. With this donation, Brockton Public Schools will be able to celebrate the wonderful diversity of all students. So I just wanted the public to know that and to thank Stacy McDonald for that. Thank you.
Relative to that matter, do we have a motion?
Motion to accept letter D, acceptance of donation from the Brockton Educational Support Professional Association.
Motion is made. Is there a second, please? Second. Motion is made by Mrs. Sullivan, properly seconded by Mr. Sullivan. Hand vote. All in favor, kindly raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. That passes as well. Dr. Cobbs.
One question.
Yep.
The March 26th meeting, is it going to be a regular school committee meeting as well?
The school committee meeting.
It's a special, I believe.
So
Next
the-
Tuesday, right?
Yeah, there's 3 meetings that night,
Right,
and it's going to start at 7 o'clock?
right.
Okay.
Okay, I just heard from TJ that he's available to join us online, so give us a couple of minutes to get him set up.
So we will go back to Agenda 3, and that is, I crossed it out, is it E? E, okay. Yep.
I don't know if I can hear, if anyone's talking, I don't know if I can hear.
Good evening, Mr. Plant. Can you hear us?
Say Hey, sorry I'm late. I was just on a staff meeting with my open architects team, but I don't know if there's any questions that the committee might have for me that I know Troy and Trish covered some of the stuff. I didn't, but I just wanted to jump on real quick to see if there's anything the school committee wants to talk about.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Members of the committee, any questions for Mr. Plant at this time? I think you jumped on, and we appreciate you jumping on, but there doesn't appear to be any questions at this time.
Okay, so I'll be planning on attending next week's meeting, and we can kind of get into some details for fiscal 25.
We appreciate it very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
We'll go on to Agenda 5 now, which is unfinished business, discussion and potential vote appointments of subcommittees for the 2024 calendar year. Vice Chair, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody received a draft of the subcommittees at our retreat. My recommendation, and also speaking to the chair, is to make sure that, you know, with the time frame and everything that we got going on, is to keep every subcommittee a committee of the whole, because it has to come back to this full body anyway, instead of breaking it up into 3 or 4 members. So everybody had a chance to review these. I talked to the mayor and some of the members. So it's all in front of you. I hope everybody had an opportunity to review it, and if we can approve this tonight, because we have a lot of business to conduct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to go over to Ms. Azak, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Rodriguez. So for those that are watching, before we would break up into groups, and it'd be probably no more, anywhere from 3 to 4 members a subcommittee. We would meet, then we would also have to come back to the committee as a whole, subcommittee of a whole, and go over everything. So it's like we were repeating things over and over again, and it just makes more sense. I fully support this. I think all the members, we have so much going on that it's important that all the members are involved with the facilities, with the safety, with the accounts review. We did this last year with bid review. We turned bid review into a subcommittee of a whole. And I just think it's very important that we meet and that all the members are informed as to what's going on, rather than keeping it at 4, bring it to the 7. And that way everyone knows what's going on. It's better than, you know, and there's so many subcommittees that are popular that people want to be part of, and it's just keeping it at 4 as well. You know, you're not really benefiting the committee. We have a lot to do this year and in future years, and it's just, I feel it's very important to turn these into subcommittees of a whole, and those would be 7 members, the 7 school committee members. So I just want to voice my support in that, and I'm fine with my assignments. I accept my assignments that are in here.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Azak. Mrs. Sullivan, please.
These have to follow policy, and a subcommittee is just a few members of a school committee. So they're really not subcommittees, and the policy says that our subcommittees are 4 people with a quorum of 3. And there was a 6-month thing over it last year that the committee couldn't decide, and now all of a sudden we're going to say they're all full committee. They're not really subcommittees then. It's a committee. It's not a subcommittee. And in the policy, it's violating our policy by saying that unless we change the policy. So it'd have to go through the policy adoption process in order to change it. And also, I was on, Kathy had given out our subcommittees, and then when I got this sheet, and we were never asked which one we wanted to be on, and someone went in and switched me off one of the subcommittees that I've never been on for negotiations, and I would like to be put back on that one, because the other person has been on every year, and I've been on for 10 years. So I would like to be put back on that one.
Mrs. Sullivan, that was made prior with Kathy, and Kathy is no longer the vice chair. I removed you because I removed myself from one of the negotiations to let you sit on that so you can negotiate. So this subcommittee is well balanced off that every member on this committee has an opportunity to negotiate a contract, including our 2 new members that just joined this committee. And then also we have a vacant seat in Ward 1, which whoever gets appointed to that seat will have the opportunity to sit on the contract negotiations. I'm not going to apologize. You've been here for 10 years, and you had 10 years to get on one of those subcommittees. but right now is not the time to get
I also
into it-
had
to
10
it.
years where people asked me what I wanted to be on and respected that, okay? So
Mr. Quorum, please.
this is not acceptable, okay?
There were only 2 changes that were made prior to this, so if we could
And
just
these are supposed to
entertain-
come from the chair, not the vice chair anyway, for policy, okay? So
Motion to approve.
they're supposed to come from the chair, not the vice chair, and it's worded in our policy, okay?
Ms. Oliver, please.
Okay, where do I start? First of all, when Ms. Eller put this committee together, she did not ask the new members which committee we wanted to be at. She never reached out to either me or, I'm sorry, but she should have called and asked us, because each one of us has our own way of expressing ourselves in which department we are best
She
at.
asked multiple times
I
on
am
email.
talking right now, so I would like the same respect.
Yep, you have the
Thank
floor.
you. And the fact that I wasn't asked, that's nice that she sent an email, but it was not basically called and like out of respect as a new member to say, Miss Oliver, which community would you like to be in? So I was not asked either. I have no issues at this because I would like to know everything that's going on right now with the deficit we're in, to know what each department is going to so I can have a voice. This is why I ran, to basically make sure everybody's accountable and we have a transparency going on. So I want to be part of everything and we're not hiding anything no more. So, yep, committee of whole.
Well, I never thought we were hiding anything anyway, but we were asked twice on email to respond whether,
Ms. Oliver still has the floor.
I'm done. I
Okay.
agree with this and I'm voting for it.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. Followed by Ms. Azak, followed by Mr. Gomes, please.
we were asked twice on email which committees we wanted to be on by Mrs. Ellis, okay? And if you didn't agree with the sheet, she was asked you to get back, so that's false information, okay? And I have never just had a sheet handed to me which committees I'm on. You always had input.
Just point of
This is a
information,
committee
point of
where
information.
people have their own input. We are not dictated by someone that tells us what we're going to do, okay? I don't agree with that.
Point of information, I became mayor January 6, 2020. I worked with Vice Chair D'Agostino, I worked with Vice Chair Azak, Vice Chair Ehlers, and now Vice Chair Rodriguez. And I know what previous mayors did as well. They did defer to the vice chair relative to helping with assignments. That's factual. Mr. Gomes, you have the floor, followed by Ms. Azak, and then we can go around again. Mr. Gomes, please.
I would just like to second what Ms. Oliver had said. When we first received the first draft of the subcommittees, I was in a lot of subcommittees, and I was chair of at least 2 or 3 subcommittees. Mind you, I've never chaired any subcommittees, but I was fine with it because we signed up for this. And the other thing too, I don't mind being in every subcommittee because, like Anna said, I want to know what's going on. It could be the least important in a sense, but I still want to know what's going on. It's part of what we do. And the schedule still looks very similar to me. I don't mind being in any subcommittee. I signed up for this, whatever function, whatever job is given to me. I think we should all take it and do what we're supposed to do. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Gomes. Followed by Ms. Azak, please.
Thank you. I just for the record, I had more chair positions, and I gave those up so other committee members had the opportunity to. When you're chairing a subcommittee, you pretty much want to just take that committee, mold it, and bring. It's not just sitting there and just running a meeting. We're out there, we're bringing things to the meeting, we're bringing things to the attention of our committee members. So, and that's really important, and that's why I feel it's important that the whole committee is involved, because there's so much going on that we really need to know what's involved. So, when we sat at the MAS conference, just a reminder, it's important when we're sitting on negotiations to have those that have sat on those negotiations before, so we remember what we've gone through, and it just makes more sense than to bring in all new members to sit on the negotiations. There's stuff that we discuss year after, every few years. So I know our attorney's here. I really don't want to drag this on, guys. I think we have so much going on that we all need to work together. But our attorney's here. Last year, we did the we didn't have to change our policy. It was a vote. We amended the policy, and we had the subcommittees of a whole, and even, I believe, Mask has said we can make them subcommittees of a whole. They've even said we didn't even have to sit on the negotiations, but we do. We sit on the negotiations with the different unions, and, you know, we're there at the table with them and going over this stuff. So it's very important. But our attorney's here. I think we can just amend the policy.
Point of information, I just asked Sarah Spotterfoot, attorney at law, Murphy Hesse. There has been a practice just last year relative to having it as a committee as a whole. Attorney, did you have any other thoughts on that? Thank you for being here as well.
So the policy does say that subcommittees are supposed to be limited to 4 members, but you've, for many years, had committees of the whole that are more than 4 members. So I think we probably should update the policy to reflect the actual practice of the body. But because you've had this longstanding practice, if the will of the committee is to have them be committees of the whole, we can update the policy afterwards.
So does that mean that a motion could be rendered tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gomes?
Just another thing, if we vote to become committee of a whole, the subcommittee assignments doesn't matter either way because everybody's going to be present. So
But these are negotiations, and that's only 3 people. Only 3 people are on negotiations. That's the thing that I was taking on, because I've never been on in 10 years. And other people have been on multiple times.
Mr. Vice Chair, again, if you could just for the record, the purpose of adding new people and then Ward 1 will be added, so that everybody could have a seat at the table for negotiation
Yes,
purposes, correct?
there's nothing that states that it's only 3 people on negotiations. When I looked at the list, I removed myself and I let Mrs. Sullivan take in one of the negotiations with the paras to give her the opportunity to negotiate on that negotiating team. So every member has an opportunity to negotiate the contracts that are going to be coming before us, including adding the 4th member from Ward 1 when that person gets appointed to this body. So if we can entertain.
Yeah, what's the will of the committee at this time?
Motion to approve the subcommittee assignments as posted and moving them to, now we want to, the facilities, the accounts review, the traffic safety, security, transportation, policy manual. Are those the 4? To turn those as committee of a whole. The grievances, we don't need to have them as grievance, certified and non-certified. We don't need to have those as committees of a whole. But those 4 subcommittees.
It's committees as stated by the Vice Chair, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so
I
motion.
second that.
Okay. On the motion.
Also, the negotiation subcommittees, everybody has more than one, and I was taken off one. And I would expect to be put back on that one that I was taken off of.
There's a motion on the floor, just for the record, again, it was made by Ms. Azak, it was probably seconded by Ms. Oliver. We could do a hand vote relative to this. Motion on the floor. On the motion, Mr. Sullivan.
On the motion, the question is, on the policy manual, your motion was to make it a committee of the whole, and there's only 5 members. There's 2 members missing. And the other question, Mr. Rodriguez, is Ward 1, I know we don't have a person, but what would happen with that Ward 1? There'd be a member of everything?
Yes, it's a committee of the whole, so that person will fall into the,
It's not on the second line. There is no Ward 1.
that's just the typo. It's still going to be to every, we're a committee of the whole no matter what. That's just blanked out.
So he or she would not be a chair of anything, but
No.
a member of everything?
We have to move forward. We don't know when that time frame's got to be. I have to talk to the city clerk and Council President Rodriguez so we can get an actual date of posting.
Technically, it doesn't come into effect till 11:59 tonight, so it would be tomorrow would be the opening in Ward 1.
All right, but the policy manual is only 5 people listed, not a committee of the whole.
Tim, there's 6 people listed there.
I count
You're
5.
reading the blocks.
Yeah, 5.
It's 6.
I think we need to.
Well, by virtue of committee of the whole, it's the 7 members within the 7 wards.
Yes.
Correct.
So it's 1 per ward for 7. So it'd be, a committee of the whole would be the 7 members of the school committee. I'm ex officio, I don't have to be on the school committee, subcommittees, but I go to them. So there is a motion. Is there anything else on the motion? Motion made by Ms. Azak, it was properly seconded by Ms. Oliver. We can do a hand vote. All in favor?
Prior to the vote, Mr.
Yes.
Sullivan, I think you're looking at the draft. You need to look at, in your agenda book, it's the last item in the book.
Point of information.
Point of information. I don't think you're looking at it correctly.
I got the draft in my hand.
Yeah, but it was updated. It's in the book.
We got 2 different drafts.
What counts is what you have in your book, Mr. Sullivan.
Chair? We have been meeting as.
I'm going to call the vote.
Oh, I know. Just on the motion, we have been meeting as a committee of a whole.
Correct.
This whole time, so.
Correct, correct.
And it makes more sense to continue on that,
Correct.
on the
So
motion.
There's a motion, thank you. There's a motion made, it was properly seconded to accept it as submitted. All in favor, kindly raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. It does pass. We're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is 6, new business. Is there any new business before us this evening? Ms. Azak?
The vice chair, and you had just mentioned the vacancy for the Ward 1 seat
It's not effective until tomorrow.
tomorrow, so.
We've already discussed, Tony and I, the vice chair and I have already met with Council President Rodriguez and city solicitor, and also Tim Cruz, the clerk. It's happened before, school committee, city
Oh, yeah.
council, Southeastern Regional.
Fine.
There is, under the charter, there will be a joint meeting of the school committee, city council. As mayor, I will chair that meeting, but again, it's a day premature.
Okay, as
But it
long as
will
we
be-
can just make sure
All the
everyone's.
notice will go to the general public, but again, the depository is the city clerk's office.
Okay, just as long as we can make sure everyone's schedules, that we
Up
know
to
the
the
date.
council president when he wants to call the meeting, but we'll work diligently with him on that.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other new business on number 6? Seeing none, we'll move on. I want to thank you all. This was a suggestion that I made at the last meeting at the Unknown. A new agenda item, which is 7, school safety and security. Chief Brenda Perez was unable to join us tonight. I reached out to the chief, but her designee, Officer Mosley, is here tonight. And I also, is Principal McCaskill here? Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Good evening, officer.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Just give an update on the safety and security. We did conduct a bag checks and interest protocol through the metal detectors in the IRC this past week? Yeah, this past week. The metal detector's warranty is coming up to an end. We got to reach out to the representative. Motorola rep visited and discussed some of the software and to augment some of the existing cameras and a lot of potential assisting in our personal recognizing, monitoring possible situation occurrence. Basically, I think we were talking about having someone monitoring the cameras, actively monitor the cameras, and identifying any problems in the school. Obviously, that's a personnel thing. Ed Davis and the consultant team working with DESI to visit for the initial safety overall. We have a successful start with our CBJJ meeting, collaborating with the DA's office, juvenile probation, community schools service, school police and principals and administrators to keep everyone on the same page with students who have felonies and discussing best practice and helping on campus. I'll explain what CBJJ in a minute. I just want to go through the updates real quick. Continue with the positive conduct with our students and through the classrooms and visiting and talking. This is some of the stuff that they're doing with the CBJJ. Fights are still happening, but it seems to be trending downward. We're handling the investigation of each incident and determine if a charge should be taken out. So to get back with what CBJJ means, that's community-based juvenile justice. Again, it's a program that started back in 1995. It's a goal. The goal is to reach juveniles who are criminally involved in the court system, and basically that are involved in school and do some community activities with them to obviously keep them out of trouble. We're working hand in hand with the DA's office. So that's where we are with safety and security.
Thank you, officer. Principal, good evening. Thanks for being here.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone, and everything that Officer Mosley indicated. We did perform a training for our safety and security specialists just this past week, and I'd like to thank the school police for providing that training, as well as our in-house staff. And one of the things that you indicated, that the reducing of violence is something that we have committed to, and it's beginning to happen. We still have a ways to go, but I'd really at this point like to really emphasize a vote of thanks to the assistant principals of each house, Kevin Rooney, Carlito Weaver, Bernadette Sullivan, and Sue England, for their work in really putting our safety and security specialists in place in specific places to really reduce the amount of traffic going forward. One of the key spots I think we did was believe it or not, restrooms. We, due to shortages in staffing, we really had some difficulties, especially for our female students, but really the redeployment of folks, we have opened up the vast majority of restrooms, which has slowed the traffic flow of most students in the building. But we're working hard. I'd like to thank our teaching staff, who's doing an outstanding job, and it's not just saying it for the TV cameras and the such. They come to work every single day. We're seeing an increase in teacher attendance, but most importantly, we're seeing the support that we need, and it's a mutual support of administrators to teaching staff and support personnel, as well as that coming back is reciprocated. So if we continue to do the things that we need to do on a daily basis as a team, and I want to put the emphasis on the word team, and have a little bit of patience, things will really start to roll. But I'm really grateful once again for the opportunity to be in front of you this evening. If you have any questions, please.
Any questions for Principal McCaskill at this time? You can tell he was a former basketball coach, can you? Huh? It's all about team. Thank you,
Long
Principal.
time ago. Thank you.
Very much, Principal. Superintendent.
Yeah, I know the feeling, Principal McCaskill, a long time ago. Just a quick update on some of the things. We had a security meeting with the school committee members, and I went through a number of things. So tonight I'm just going to highlight some of the ones that we can go public with. And as you already heard, the safety audit, which is being conducted by the Ed Davis Company. I'm not sure if you all remember Ed Davis or not. He was a commissioner of police in Boston for a number of years. We expect to get that report from the security audit no later than June 30th, which is a requirement for DESE when they contracted with the company for us to do the audit. So they've already started. They had a team on the ground on the 12th, and people here at the high school spent all day with them. From when the students arrived until they got back on the bus in the evening. One of the members of that team, most of the members were from DESE. One of the members of that team was from the Ed Davis group, so they will be sending out another team in about 2 weeks, and they'll be here on the ground for at least a week, to do the audit. And again, we expect that report by June 30th. In the interim, the district intends to hire a director of security. That person will report directly to the superintendent. The individual's office will be here at Brockton High School, but it will be a district-level position for all the schools for security and safety for the whole district. Item number 3, the district we plan to double the number of security personnel at the high school with these safety and security people. Currently, we have 12, and we still have 6 in the pipeline, 6 being vetted, so that number will go up to 24 personnel between now and next school year. Next is the district planning. We're planning to begin the work of implementing new protocols to secure unoccupied classrooms. This includes changing 1,400 locks on classrooms and other doors in the building. So again, when the classrooms are empty, they'll be locked, and the people that have the keys to open the doors will be safety security personnel, administrators, and floor teachers. Floor teachers, security staff, control officers took part in the safety security training on March 14th. They will undergo continuing regular training to going forward, at least quarterly, and probably we'll have bi-weekly meetings at least to just updates and talk about any security issues that we need to cover and take a second look at. Next item, we'll have all students will have new photo IDs taken every school year. And this may slow down the process, particularly here in the building. I know, Mr. Polito, I was the principal at Edison Academy for 8 years, and I go into Infinite Campus to look at a student's ID and it's 8th grade picture. And the student in front of me is 19, 20 years old, so it's like, I get it. Not the same person, so we have a plan to make sure those photos are updated every school year. Like I said, it will probably slow down the process here or the first couple of days of school, but so be it. We need to properly identify the students. Again, there are additional security measures that the district will be taking and implementing soon, but I'm not going to go into details of those right now because that would compromise our security efforts. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Any questions for Superintendent at this time? Mr. Sullivan, please.
Yes, at the retreat, we talked about the student IDs on the school bus. Did you check into that?
Yeah, I think right now I understand what you're trying to do is scan the IDs that are getting on the school bus, and it's just not practical right now, but we're looking into it. You know, that's another thing that I'm planning on doing as a complete audit for the transportation department, and I'm right now working with a couple of companies to do that. It's not cheap. It's one company gave me a proposal for like almost $180,000. So we're looking. They're a company out of Colorado, but I'm going to look for more local people to look into that situation because trying to scan students to get on the school bus, and particularly students in the wintertime and inclement weather, it's going to be difficult. So we'll look into it.
Are the machines already on the bus now?
No, they're not.
I was told they were.
Yeah, they're not. No. Thank you.
Ms. Azak, please.
Thank you. Dr. Cobbs, maybe until we can financially afford a system, maybe just, the students should be taking the same bus every day, in the morning and in the afternoon. Maybe just, giving them a number or putting something on their ID at the beginning of the school year, your bus number 22. And the bus drivers should know the students that they pick up in the morning and the students that they take home in the afternoon, unless it's someone that's, covering. But our bus drivers are pretty awesome with our students, and a lot of them
they know the
build
students,
such a rapport with them.
You're right. They
So-
know the students. They know who belongs on the bus and who doesn't.
Okay, thank you. So the whole Track My Bus, is that just, have we given up on the Track My Bus?
No, that's still a work in progress, but again, the software compatibility with our Versatrans system, it's problematic right now, so we're still looking into it.
Yeah, no, last time I asked, it was the number of routes that we have, and we have so many of them, that and sometimes they just change depending on what's going on, road repair and stuff.
And that's where this transportation audit will help us. They'll look at all the routes and the efficiency of the routes and from top to bottom, as far as the organizational structure, what we do as far as maintenance, the whole top to bottom. So,
All
and then
right.
we'll go forward from there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Azak. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll conclude that agenda item. Thank you, Dr. Cobbs. We'll go on to number 8, which is announcements. Any announcements? Ms. Azak, please.
Sorry, I'll make it real quick. So our student rep focused on a lot of positives that we have in our school, and that's what we need to do, because what's going on at the high school is not just Brockton High, and I don't like how the news is putting it out there. It's happening all across the country. So Brockton High is an amazing school. My 2 nieces are at amazing colleges. One's in law school right now, the other's at Harvard. So we have students that are going to top-notch schools. Our students are amazing, whether it's athletics, music, drama, arts, you name it. We have so many different clubs. So we just have to focus on the positive. And then one of the fun events, I wanted to thank Ms. Tucker and Mr. Brophy for inviting us to the red carpet, BHS's red carpet event last Friday. And we presented little Oscars. But to see the students all dressed up and come on stage, and they were highlighting the students, and they were just their fellow students nominated them for different awards. So it was wonderful, and we're looking forward to next year. But that's what we need to focus on. Enough with the negative. because Brockton High is amazing, and I'm class of 91, we have class of 88,
88.
97, 90-something. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 alumni that are on the school committee right now. So we're proud, and we just have to focus that. And I know the news stations are here, so Brockton High is amazing. There's problems all over, whether it's fighting or budgets. Look, some of the surrounding towns are going through the same thing we're going through. So I just wanted to just make that quick statement, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Azak.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you for that, Ms. Azak.
Any other announcements at this time? So I want to thank the Brockton City Council, all 11 members. I want to thank all of you. Last night, we went to the City Council Finance Committee meeting. The original date was February 5th, and it was continued and postponed to last night, the 18th. What was on the agenda item was the request for the feasibility study under the MSBA, $2.5 million to analyze Brockton High School. It'll take 2 years. It's $2.5 million. It's a lot of money. But the MSBA, and I want to thank Executive Director Mary Piketty, as part of the engagement with the community and with Brockton Public Schools, they reimburse 80%. So I want to thank the Brockton City Council. I want to thank Council President Moses Rodriguez. At the end of the day, it was a long meeting last night, and I want to thank Dr. Cobbs. He was there. Troy Clarkson was there, Vice Chair. Everybody on the school committee was there last night, including the Ward 1 counselor that will be leaving us soon. At the end of the day, we worked together, and the decision was that the students and staff at Brockton High deserve a better Brockton High. So whatever that means, if it's a remodel, a rebuild, whatever, this is the next phase moving forward. So I do want to just publicly thank everybody that was there. I want to thank City Council. It was a unanimous favorable recommendation back. And the $2.5 million, again, 80% reimbursed is a great endeavor. So again, thank you for all being there last night. Oh, I said council? I mean Ward 1 school committee member. Well, the Ward 1 council was there too. I remember that. It was 14 years of being on the council. Confusing. Any other Agenda 8 announcements at this time? Seeing none, we do have Agenda 9, which is executive session, and before I entertain a motion, I'm going to read the following to the record. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21(1), to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, individual, open meeting law complaints. And then the next item is Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy session and preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, superintendent, interim superintendent. I need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session.
So motion, is there a second? Motion was made by Mrs. Sullivan, it was properly seconded by Mr. Sullivan. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Now I need to that passed. Anybody opposed? No. Now we need a roll call vote to actually go into executive session. Mrs. Sullivan? Yes. Mr. Gomes?
Yes.
Ms. Oliver?
Yes.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
Ms. Azak?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
I'm a yes, and just for BCA, we will not be coming back into open session. Thank you.